like to welcome you from Peterkin Law Firm to our clinic on driver's license restoration. And we just want to make you all aware that we do these community programs, community education programs, to afford people an opportunity to get some advice and education on things that you might not otherwise have an opportunity to be exposed to without having to retain legal counsel. And because the Peterkin Law Firm wants to give back to the community. And our presenter for today is attorney Jennifer Hagan-Clay. And Jennifer is a native of Robeson County. And she graduated from UNC Wilmington, and then she attended law school at North Carolina Central. She is a phenomenal attorney. She does criminal work and family and civil work. And she is going to be presenting to us today about driver's license restoration in the hopes that some of you all can find out some of the areas that you need to focus on if you're trying to get your driver's license back, or if you have a relative who doesn't have their driver's license. So at this time, and without further ado, we're going to introduce to you on behalf of Peterkin Law Firm, attorney Jennifer Clay.
Good morning, everyone. Like Attorney Allen said, my name is attorney Jennifer Clay. I'd like to thank you all for being here, coming out early on a Saturday morning, especially when it's cold outside. Before we get started in the program, we would like to recognize the people that were here at 10:30 this morning for our presentation. These people get a $5 gift card. Attorney Peterkin, the $5 gift card, our $5 gift cards would go to Mr. McBride and Miss Madison for being on time, being early, actually, being early. Rewarding you for being early. To get started, thank y'all for being early. And we're going to be giving out other gift cards this morning as well for, at different points during the presentation. I'm going to start off by talking about frequently asked questions on how to get your license, about your driver's license being revoked, what you can do. And then we're going to go into, you all see I have a record up here. It's blown up. This is the actual driver's record from North Carolina. This is one of my clients. He is revoked. See, class C suspended, that means he's revoked. And we're going to let y'all figure out how we can help this person get their license back. Okay? All right, to start off, do anybody in here know how your license gets revoked? Anybody? Not paying tickets off, not showing up for court, accumulating too many points within a certain time frame. It could be 12 within 1 year. It could be a 3-year period that you accumulate too many points. You can be revoked for speeding, going over a certain speed limit and being 15 miles over. Refusing to take a breathalyzer, exactly. You can be revoked for getting a DWI for a year. There's shorter periods of revocation than longer periods of revocation. You can have a 10-day revocation for being charged with DWI. You can get a year revocation for refusing to take a breathalyzer. There's different, like I said, there's different time frames. You can be revoked for having too many revocations. For example, a permanent revocation. So there's many ways to be revoked, and that is not an exclusive list. There are more ways than that. It's just some common ways that you can be revoked. One question that I get all the time is, how can my license be revoked if I've never had a license? Has anybody in here ever heard that?
Yes.
Have you ever asked that question?
No, I don't know that.
Okay. Well, it's not necessary that you've actually ever had a license. You don't have to have been issued a license by this state or by any other state to be revoked here in North Carolina. What it is that your privilege to drive in North Carolina has been revoked. And it can be revoked for any of the reasons that we just said a few minutes ago, and even more. So just because your license is revoked, that doesn't mean you ever had one. It just means we're not going to let you have a license because we've revoked your privilege to drive for whatever reason. Okay? What is the difference between a suspension and a revocation? Anybody know?
Suspended, you get them back.
actually, that's a good answer. And the reason why I put that question down is because people ask that question all the time. Well, my license are suspended, they're not revoked. Suspended and revoked are the same thing. It means you don't have a license, and we're not going to give you one until you meet some certain requirements. Okay? Now, this is a big, important question, because recently there's been a law change in driving while license revoked charges. What are the possible penalties of driving while license revoked in North Carolina? You can go to jail. What else? Child support. Matter of fact, that's the reason that we didn't mention it when I asked the first question. That's the reason for you to be revoked in North Carolina. You don't pay your child support. Some counties do it, some counties don't. I think Robeson County does it. Yes. All right. So some of the possible penalties of driving while license revoked here in North Carolina are, one, that you can go to jail. Do you know how much time you can get for driving while license revoked?
5 to 7.
How many?
20 days.
What was your answer?
5.
5? Okay. 90 days? That's a good answer too. Let me just say that the worst penalty that you can get for driving while license revoked in North Carolina is 120 days. Up to 120 days. That is because it's a Class 1 misdemeanor in North Carolina. Okay? Now, as of December the 1st, 2013, the law changed about driving while license revoked. Pretty much what it was before December the 1st, 2013, if you got caught driving while license revoked, you could be arrested, you could be put under a bond, and you could go to jail for up to 120 days for anybody that was caught driving while license revoked. Now, past December 1st, 2013, what it really is this. You get caught driving while license revoked in North Carolina. If your license are revoked because of a DWI, if your license are revoked because of a DWI, that is called an impaired revocation. That means that you can be put under a bond. That means that you can have to go to jail for up to 120 days. If your license are not revoked for a DWI, and when they say when you're revoked because of a DWI, it means some people are revoked for more than one reason at any given time. They can be revoked for failing to pay their fine. They can be revoked because they have a first moving violation while license suspended. You can be revoked because there's a medical reason. You haven't submitted medical documents to the DMV. You can be revoked for many reasons at one time. But for this particular part of the law, if you are revoked because you are originally revoked for a DWI, that means you got stopped for a DWI, you were convicted of DWI, and you are still in that suspension for DWI. That means you can go to jail if you get caught driving. Okay? But now, what I think the General Assembly wanted to do was to make it where they would not be sending people to jail or to prison for driving while license revoked, unless you have a problem with drinking. Okay? Some of the other penalties are, what's your question?
What if your license already revoked, and then you get caught driving a DWI?
That can be used as an aggravating factor when you're sentenced. Because in North Carolina, there's like 5 levels of DWI. And there's different ways for you to get to a level 5, which is the lowest punishment for DWI, to a level 1, which is the most punishment for DWI. Driving while license revoked is one of the ways for it to be an aggravating factor to enhance your sentence. But if you get a DWI and you are already revoked, that is not necessarily going to be a reason for you to go to jail. It could be when they sentence you, because you're out on bond for driving, or you could be either just revoked, you could be out on bond, you could have a DWI, and then you got another one. Those are ways that make the punishment more severe. But now it's supposed to be a fine and a court cost. It's a Class 3 misdemeanor if you're not originally revoked for DWI. Any other questions about that? I got one.
I have DC license.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a rate went by, expired. and I moved back down here.
Mhm.
I'll be in the progress of getting North Carolina license.
Mhm.
But I got stopped doing that progress. So I had to go to court for that.
Okay, what did they charge you with? No operator's license or
Yeah,
driving
I expired the license.
for expired license?
Yes, I had
Okay.
DC license.
Okay. Did they ask you if you had been here more than 20 days?
No.
Okay.
I'm originally from here,
Okay.
but I was
But what it is whether you've moved your residence from one place to another. Once you've been in the state for a certain amount of time, they want to see you get your car registered here. They want to see you have your license here. That shows that you're here and you're a resident of this state. So a lot of times what they'll do is if you have a valid license but it's not revoked in another state, it's just expired.
Right.
They'll tell you, well, you need to go on and come get it here. But there is a separate charge for being here past a certain time and not getting your registration and not getting your license here. But that's a good question because I've got a lot of clients that have problems because they might be licensed in another state. And see, the thing of it is in North Carolina, you have a DC license or you've got a Maryland license or a New York license. Every DMV in this country communicates with one another. So if you're revoked in New York, you're going to be revoked here. And you've got to clear up that issue in New York in order to clear it up here. And it's not like as soon as you get revoked in New York, you're going to be revoked here in North Carolina. It might take some time, but eventually that will catch up with you here. And the reason why is because under the United States Constitution, every state has a duty to recognize sister states' judgments and convictions and stuff like that. Let me get another question. There's no difference. It's driving while impaired, driving under the influence. It's the same thing. It doesn't have to be alcohol. It can be you're under the influence of a prescription medication or anything like that, and you can be charged with driving while impaired. And it's harder to prove if it's you took some hydrocodone pills for pain and you got stopped. They may not know exactly why, and then they got to do a blood test if they do blood work on you. It's just harder to prove if it's not alcohol. But for purposes of the charge, it's the same thing. Yes, sir.
I actually had two questions.
Okay.
First one is, do you have to have an assessment per DUI that you have? And the second question is there such thing as an old law and a new law when it comes to DUI?
Yes. Okay. For the first question, you have to have, say you've got 5 DWIs. Say that for the first 3, you got an assessment because you got them at different time frames. Every time you get stopped and convicted for a DWI, you have to do a new assessment and comply with the recommendations. Say you're out on bond for DWI, and then the next week you get stopped again. I had a client that had the same situation in Raleigh. He was out on bond for a DWI. He got another DWI like 2 weeks later. We put him on the same court date, and he pled out to two DWIs. They were not going to dismiss one. He had to have 2 assessments. Now, no, it's not actually that you take 2 assessments. You have to pay 2 assessment fees. So whoever the provider is for the assessment, they're going to charge you $200, but you're only going to do 1 assessment. And if they say, as part of whatever they recommend, you've got to do the 8X class, which is like 16 hours, or you got to do the 20, 40, 60, or 80 hours in therapeutic stuff, you still have to do it, but you still have to pay the 2 $100 fees. And then they'll send to DMV that you complied by paying the assessment fees. And then you got to complete the hours to get the other part of it taken care of. Because before you can get reinstated, you've got to have both of those assessments, and you've got to have completed all of the hours. The other question was what again?
Is there such thing as an old law and a new law when it comes to driving?
Yes. The DWI, I think it was still in 5 levels, like level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, as far as punishment. But in 2006, the DWI law changed. So it used to be a little bit easier to get out of a DWI. Now it's a lot harder. And there's so many other requirements. There's so many reasons why a police officer can stop you. They don't necessarily have to have as much to meet the probable cause requirement or reasonable suspicion requirement that they had before the law changed in 2006.
So far as, say for instance, my DUIs were before 2006, it would be easier for me
to have a trial on it.
No,
What
I'm
it
talking about
goes
the trial, I'm talking about the actually, say for instance, the assessment
punishment.
and everything.
Now, I don't know about that. Now, see, my specialty really is like driving while license revoked, and we know that you can be revoked because of a DWI. But as far as actual DWIs, I have not really represented a lot of people on that because they're so hard to get out of. DAs don't, I mean, you know, they're not going to dismiss a DWI. Very rarely. I've had one DWI dismissed since I've been licensed in 2005. One. And that was in Durham. I just don't really like to fool with them. But as far, the way that I distinguish the two sets of charges is now, if I take it to trial, I can have less evidence, or the state can have less evidence that you were actually impaired, and then it's easier to convict you. You're going to be found guilty 99.9% of the time, unless it's some technicality. Does that answer your question at all?
Well, sort of, yeah.
Okay. Well, we can talk more after the class, or we can set up an appointment.
I have a question. If your license had been revoked, say for like 14 years, and it was mostly simple things like a seatbelt registration, and if it's been that long, does those charges still stand, or can they be
Well, it
cleared
depends.
up?
It's kind of like this, okay? Let me show you on this record. This person had a lot of things that he failed to appear on. Any one of them could have been a seat belt, whatever the charge was. If he never went to court and took care of those, in some cases, in a lot of cases, it's easier for me to go back to court in Cumberland County or wherever and say, look, this is old. Can you just, you know, go ahead and dismiss it?
Yeah.
And they'll go ahead and dismiss it. Now, if you actually pled out to it, and it's been 14 years, and it caused a revocation on your license, and then you just kind of kept stacking them up after that, then there's a different thing that has to be done. And I'm going to get to that when we go to talking about this record here. But basically, it'd be called a motion for appropriate relief. And I would go back to whatever county it was, Cumberland, Robinson, wherever, and say, look, she was convicted of, you know, speeding 9 over in 1992. And that caused a first moving violation while license suspended. But this is a ticket where you normally would have reduced that to improper equipment had she had an attorney. They're like, yeah, we would have done that. So they'll go back, I'll file a paper motion, and the DA will consent to it. I'll put it back on the calendar, and the judge will just sign off on an order saying that it's changed to IE, which is improper equipment. It's a non-moving violation. And that is actually what we're going to do when we play our little game about how to fix this man's license. I'm going to show you all the different ways that you can do to fix it, and then we're going to let y'all figure out how to do it.
Well, I have to leave early because I have to go to a funeral, but that's what I want to ask. So I'll come over.
That's exactly what I want you to do. And grab a handout on your way out so that you can get the questions, call over there and make an appointment.
Okay.
Or walk in, because I'm over there a lot.
Okay.
All right.
I'll get ready anyway.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, one more.
Yes, sir.
Is there any kind of relief when it comes to fines?
That's a good question. I had that on my list of stuff. Are you talking about a fine that you haven't paid off, or that would be paid off yet, or a fine that you haven't gotten because you haven't been convicted yet?
No, fine that already been convicted.
Okay.
Maybe, you know, 15, 20 years old.
Okay, and you haven't paid it yet?
Right.
Okay. Well, under that scenario, usually the judge is going to want their money, okay? But sometimes you can add it back to the calendar and go back and be like, look, judge, you know, we know that this is old. Yeah, you know, this person failed to comply. We need to get it fixed. Can you, you know, I do a motion for appropriate relief, basically, and ask that the fines be reduced. Forward looking, if you get a charge and you know that it's going to cost $400 by the time you pay the court costs and fine, and you really don't have it, and you can show I have a limited income, I'm a SSI recipient, or you know I I get disability and that's all the money that I have. That's a good argument for the judge to remit the cost and fine. And I'm gonna also start asking people, I did this more like in other counties, like Raleigh, Durham, around that area, is to ask if the judge would be willing to let the person do community service, like volunteer at the Red Cross for 10 hours to cut their fine and costs down. Some judges do that, but as far as an old fine that you failed to pay, we'd have to go back in front of the judge and ask if they would be willing to cut some of it down. Yes, sir.
Like, on the background, if it says that a ticket has been dismissed, do you owe the DMV any kind of money?
It depends. If the ticket was dismissed, but before it was dismissed, you failed to appear on the ticket, and your license was actually revoked because of that ticket before it was dismissed, then you owe a restoration fee to the DMV.
Just the restoration fee? You don't pay for the tickets?
You have to pay, no, if it's dismissed, you don't have any court costs and fines to pay.
It's just the restoration fee?
It's just a restoration fee if you were revoked because you didn't go to court on that ticket. Okay, but if in general you just go to court and the DA dismisses your ticket, then no, you don't have to pay anything, unless it's something like a deferred prosecution. They might be like, well, hey, you know, go over here and do 10 hours worth of volunteer work, and when you come back to court, we'll take a dismissal. Then, you know, it's still, you're still not going to have to pay any costs if they dismiss it in the end, but there may be some type of fee that you have to pay to do community service. But generally, no, you don't have to pay anything to the courthouse if your ticket is dismissed.
That's not DMV.
Yeah, to the DMV, you got to pay it if you were only revoked because of that ticket.
Okay, what if you were revoked because of that ticket and then you got another ticket? You didn't go to court on that one either.
Okay, all right. Now you're getting to the heart of the matter. And I think that this is a good time for us to kind of go into our little game, because that will answer your question. If you have multiple revocations, you didn't go, you're revoked, and then you got an FTA. If we have to go back to court and ask the judge to put it back on the calendar, and then we have to try to take care of it. If you are ultimately convicted of a moving violation as a result of that ticket, then it could be a first, second, or third moving violation while license suspended, which means it could be a 1-year revocation, a 2-year revocation, a 3-year revocation, or a permanent revocation, which means you're not eligible for a hearing with DMV for 3 years once you get a permanent. But Attorney Peterkin is passing out a sample driving record. It's the same record I have up here. And what we're going to do is everybody's going to look at it, and I'm going to tell you the rules about how I fix people's license, okay? So while he's passing out the record, I'm going to say that as a general rule, in North Carolina, you can get 2 PJCs in a 5-year period. Does everybody know what a PJC is? What is it? Go ahead. Prayer for judgment continued. Do you know what it means, what the ramifications of a PJC are in a driving situation?
They give you forgiveness for that act, but if you get in trouble again, you have to pull time for that. And
well, with a criminal charge, yeah, that's usually the way it is. You get a PJC, and as long as you stay out of trouble, then you don't have to worry about being sentenced to do any time or for punishment for that offense. But if you get something new, then they might bring both of them on you. Yeah. For driving purposes, you get a PJC, it means that it doesn't count as a conviction for purposes of your DMV record. See this person right here? They had a PJC right here on driving while license revoked in Durham County. That means normally, under ordinary circumstances, this person was found guilty of driving while license revoked, he would have had a 1-year revocation with the DMV. But because he got a PJC, that means that he wasn't revoked for a year. Okay? So let me explain the rules. 2 PJCs in a 5-year period. That's what a person can get. And bear in mind, you're not getting a PJC for a driving while license revoked. I mean a DWI. Okay? That's not going to happen. Unless it's a temporary PJC. We're going to PJC it, you come back in 6 months, and then we're going to enter judgment. But a permanent PJC, you're not getting it for a DWI. Improper equipment. That means that you had your speedometer wasn't working on your car, or your muffler wasn't working, or something like that. Sometimes there's a limit. Motion for appropriate relief. That means I file a paper motion, I go back to the court, and I ask the court to change a conviction on your record. That's one way that I deal and try to help people get their license back. Another way, and it's similar to motion for appropriate relief, and it can fall under motion for appropriate relief, is sending FTA failure to comply in error. That means if you didn't go to court, you failed to appear. That's what an FTA is. Or FTC is failed to comply. The court entered judgment on your ticket and you didn't pay the fine, or you didn't do what the court told you to. That's an FTC. It's possible to get those sent in error. So if that person has an FTA, that means it revoked their license because they failed to appear. You can go back and ask the judge to take that off and make it retroactive to the date of the ticket. That means it's like they were never revoked. That's one way. And same thing for failure to comply. You can ask when you fail to pay a fine, you can go back and this person was revoked and they got more charges after they failed to pay that fine. You can go back and ask the court to take it off and act like it never happened. If you come back to court with your license, and you've charged with driving while license revoked, in most counties in North Carolina, they'll just dismiss the ticket. Because what they want, really, is to see people comply with the law. Even if you weren't in compliance on the date you were stopped, but you were when you came back. They'll usually dismiss it. Sometimes people's license, it'll show up that they're revoked when a police officer stops them, and then it gets fixed, and it looks like when you pull the record, they were never revoked in the first place. Then DMV will give you a letter to take to court to say, hey, even though when you stop this person, our records may have indicated their license was revoked, they really were not. And they'll give you a letter, you take that to court, they get it dismissed. What's your question?
I had moved back to D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the ticket. I went to court.
Yes, sir.
I had a $200 fine to pay.
Mm-hmm.
So I sent the money back down. But my mom was at the time, she was at Alhambra.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know she passed.
Mm-hmm.
So now I was over $200. That was the court cost. But I have to.
What do we have to do? This is what I'm going to tell you. Because y'all all came out to this presentation today, we're going to do a free consultation for you whenever you want across the street at my office. And we're going to sit down with you. You have to bring $8 to pull your driving record.
Okay. But
that's all you have to pay is $8 for your driving record. And I'm going to tell each one of you what you have to do to get your license back.
Okay.
Okay?
Right.
So I'll answer all your questions when you come see me.
Okay.
All right. Now that everybody has the record, you've got the rules, I've explained it. Do you still want everybody to break up into groups, Attorney Peterkin?
No, not for this first part, that was only for the strategy.
Okay. All right. Now, other than that, let me say, we had 5 questions that I wanted everybody to ask. All right? How many PJCs has this person right here? And y'all can look at the record, or you can look up here at this blown up copy of the record, whatever's easier for you to see. How many PJCs has this person used?
2.
Can we clarify, we're trying to see the first person who gets the right answer, if you raise your hand, does he has a gift card for McDonald's he wants to give you? So he's supposed to be paying attention to see who's the first person to get the right answer?
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
that one, I messed that question up, so we're going to do another one.
All right. All right. Now, hearing what Attorney Peterkin said, how many points does this person have? And I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to count their points.
First person to answer, raise your hand, and I'm going to give you the card. You got it right. You got one
This is
already?
a hard one, too.
3.
You got one already?
Yes, sir. How many?
3.
All right. That's not right, but good try.
19.
She got it right.
There you go.
All right. So she gets a gift card. Good job. All right. Now, this one is a little more difficult. How many charges does this person have on their record? And when I say charges, I mean how many different traffic offenses has this person been charged with? Don't count failure to appears. Don't count failure to comply. Charges.
You say different ones?
Different ones. I already got one person raising their hand. How many charges he got?
Say this, the question again.
How many different charges has he got?
6.
6?
5.
That's not right.
5.
5's not right either. 10 charges is right. Good job. All right. Now, I've got 3 more. How many FTAs this person got? And when I say FTAs, I mean failure to appear. How many different failure to appears has he got on his record?
One.
Yes, sir? No. He has got way more than one because he does not like to go to court.
How many times have, you know?
How many what?
A failed appearance. One time, I mean, I'll say one.
One's not the right answer. Before they pick you up, now, it just depends on when they catch you. If they issue the order for your arrest, you're going to jail.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so in a way, that's kind of a right answer. All right, sir?
let's see. I count 23.
All right, you're a little bit over. Let me see what she has. You're a little bit over too. Does anybody want me to do it so I get the free gift card?
That's what I'm trying to do.
Well, we need to give you one for just being here because you're on point every time. How many? You are the closest, that's the closest answer. The actual answer is 12. Okay? So, what do you want to do about that, Attorney Peterkin? Give it to her because she was closest. All right, she got it. Okay. How many failure to complies has he got? Failure to comply means failure to pay the fine, failure to do what you were ordered to do. When you see failed and it doesn't have to appear beside it, that means they failed to comply.
And this is $10 gift card.
No.
Five.
I'm going to have to come over here and sit down beside you and go through this with you. All right. Who else?
I say so.
All right. I want to know the person with the best answer right now. What you got? Anybody else?
One.
What you got?
25.
All right. She's the closest. There's 3 failure to complies.
Right.
All right, now, I have another question, and we're going to look at this record. We're going to fix this person's license, okay? All of y'all going to be attorneys today because we're going to fix this person's license. How many counties has this man got tickets in? Or how many counties has he had DMV issues in? For, yeah, that one was hers.
Yes,
For
she
the,
was closest. See, you got
And this is for 10 as well.
all right, how many counties? Now, everybody knows there's 100 counties in this state. Of 100 counties, this man has been stopped in how many counties? Yes, sir?
7.
All right. That's the right answer.
All right.
All right, now that we